Oh my gosh, I'm going to tell you guys a horror story. Holy moly. And a few people have been like, once in a while, they'll bring it up to me like, Gina, remember that time you went over that prospective client's house? And I was like, oh my God, I have to do a TikTok about that. All right. And so I was just on my live. And I mentioned it. I said, okay, I'm going to do my TikTok video about this now. All right. So it's a blessing that I survived this situation. Okay. I laugh, but listen to this. Matchmaking story time. All right. So this has been about 8 years ago now, maybe not that long. And so this guy came as a referral from another matchmaking service. That should have been my first clue. Like, why didn't they want to work with him? And he seemed okay, all right? At least on the phone and stuff. So usually what I do, and I still do, it's fine, thank God, most of the time, I go over to people's houses. I like to see their homes. I like to see their lifestyle, okay? And this guy lived in that gated community where the Kardashians lived. So, it seemed legit, seemed fine. So I get there, it's just an extremely hot day. I remember that. It's like one of the hottest days of the year. And so I get over to his house, and his house was a little weird. It was like further in past, like there was like neighborhoods, and it's a gated community, but it's neighborhoods. But then he lived like way, way back in, way off the grid within the community. So his house seemed weird. He had a ton of very childlike things, like, I don't know, a lot of dog stuff, but like oddly stuffed toys, a lot of sports memorabilia, but things that just didn't feel appropriate for, like a grown ass man as professional. And then I guess he ended up saying that his parents lived there with him. Now, and how old was he? Because I know that's what you're thinking. He was probably, I think he was like late 30s. I think he was like 38 maybe. Okay. So anyway, for whatever reason, he wants to give me a tour. He gave me a tour of his house. It was a little odd, but nothing worrisome yet at that point. Hang on. So then he takes me out of his house, and then we're walking around to the back. He's like, oh, I'll show you the back. I'll show you my workshop or whatever he has. I don't know what he called this thing. My office, maybe. Come up back here and come to my office. Okay, so we go in the back, and then it's like far, and it's kind of like a dirt road. Weird. I'm telling you, it was in this gated Kardashian community, but there was just this really weird offshoot place. It was a big house, but then he's taking me out back around the back, and it's like kind of like a cornfield looking place. I'm not kidding. Like, I was saying to myself, what the fuck is going on here? But I was just going along with it. But by minute, I was like getting more worried and more like, what's going on here? And so he says, well, come on. And then he takes me, and it's just this like shack, like a shed, like a, not a broken down shed, but it's like a new shed, but it had no windows. Okay. And it was like way back far from his house. And I've got my computer, I'm there to do my work, or show him, I'm just showing profiles of women or whatever. And so now we go into this shed thing, and I was just like, he's like, come on in. And I was like, it was a small shed. He had a desk in there, no windows. He had an air conditioning unit. And of course he had to turn on the air conditioning unit, which also worried me because who's going to hear me scream if I need to in this windowless shed way off from the house with air conditioning going. So I am like honestly worried sick at this point. I'm getting so worried. And then I'm like, but I'm playing along because I don't really know what to do. And so I sit at the desk, and he's right up against next to me, right? Because there's no room in this shed. And I'm just like praying to God that this thing's going to work out in my favor. And I say, okay, I'm going to connect to the internet. What's the password? And you know what he said? Duct tape. Duct tape was the password, was his password. Do you know that I should have just like ran out the door. I stayed. I had the meeting. I did the password. I survived. It ended up okay, but I don't know. Like, that was like the most weirdest, mind-blowingly creepiest thing. Obviously, he didn't become a client. Thing that I've ever experienced in the matchmaking business. Okay? Okay.